This is a test of the Boundary Park alert system. Welcome to episode 2 of the Boundary Park alert system with me, Matt Dean. I'm recording this directly after the game against Stevenage. Just finished having a conversation with Will and Adam from Push the Boundary, and it was a very, very emotional exchange, particularly from me. I must admit that I get very, very emotional at one point in this conversation, but to spare my own embarrassment, I could edit it out, but I'm not going to, because we've just witnessed two horrendous performances from Latics against Morecambe and against Stevenage. I tried to be optimistic after the Leyton Orient game, but what we're seeing now is a legacy of constant interference, constant meddling in the playing side of things from Mo and Abdallah, and the Twitter situation right now, you know, things are going really, really bad. Not really bad, but things are just kicking off because everybody's sick of it. We knew that this was going to happen. We knew when Dino was sacked and the way he was sacked that this was going to happen again. We're going to start the season really badly, and we've started the season really badly. And I'm not going to go on to a rant now because you're going to listen to the next however many minutes of me, Will and Adam chewing the fat over this. The situation is serious and something needs to change. And as fans, we need to take responsibility. And I hope that by listening to this podcast, you're one of the fans that is prepared to do that, who's prepared to roll the sleeves up and get involved and save our football club and take it out of the hands of the people who are running it at the minute. Last week I tried to be optimistic. This week my patience is well and truly finished. I am done with it. So, Oldham Athletic fans, this is our time. What are we going to do about it? Push the boundary. They're going to tell you what their plans are, what they want to do about it. Trust Oldham. Hopefully they're going to get themselves sorted out and actually, do what they're supposed to do. And it's time, because we are only going in one direction and it is down. Here's the conversation that I had with Will and Adam from Push the Boundary. Just a quick warning that there is some swearing in this interview and it starts right at the beginning.
Jesus fucking Christ.
I think that's the perfect... I've pressed record, so we're good to go. That's the perfect way to start it. Jesus fucking Christ. Yeah. I think that's why this is a really good time to do the podcast, like straight after the game on a Saturday. I think we're not losing any of that. In this case, anger. That joy is a long, long way away. I think after these last two performances, how are you both feeling? If it's not an obvious question,
I don't think it's anger from me. Just bewilderment. It's just coming away after watching that. I feel like I'm shocked, but I shouldn't be, because looking at some of the players that we've got, we just don't have that experience to be pulling the strings in a game, and then it's showing after the past couple of games.
I think last week on the podcast, it was a new season, a new manager, new players. We're carrying the Oldham baggage around with us constantly, so we all know where we are and why we are where we are. But it was very much for me a case of it's the first game of the season. Let's not go too hard on the team and on the players. And I felt that the game, it wasn't the worst. Maybe it was just that Leyton Orient played, quite poorly, and then since Morecambe and Leyton Orient, Adam, it's just been. I mean, where do you start, mate?
I don't know. It's, for me, you look at the shots on target in the Morecambe game. I think we didn't have a shot on target till the 80th minute. Today it was the 72nd minute till a shot on target. That says everything you need to know about the quality that's in the squad at the moment for me. But I think we're definitely missing a proper striker. Durnley's a winger turned striker, and you've got Rowe, who doesn't play as a striker. We haven't got anybody else.
No.
There is literally nobody. And if we stay with what we've got at the moment, I genuinely do worry for where we're going to finish this season, because that was, after today's game, was, for me, an absolute shambles.
There's two things I want to focus on today. I don't really want to focus too much on the players that we've got on the pitch and the manager, because they're a symptom of where we're at. I do want to talk about Harry Kewell's response to the Morecambe game. We're yet to hear what he has to say about today, but I do want to talk about the interview that he gave. And I want to focus on why we are where we are, really, in terms of how we've ended up in this situation at the start of this season. Now, things may turn around. There are zero signs that is going to be the case, but we may make a few signings which knit the whole thing together. But off the back of, I've prepared lots of notes, as you know, you've seen them for things that we were going to talk about today. And at the minute, I don't really feel like consulting those notes. I feel like focusing on what we've witnessed over the last couple of games and trying to get our heads around why we are where we are. So I will read some of the quotes from Harry Kewell's interview. I think people have probably seen it, but it's just like when you actually read them out. He said that he thought that we were excellent, especially in the second half. He said that Morecambe had a game plan and they were well organised, but he felt that we dealt with it. He thought that we were getting closer. He thought that we had our creativity in the final third. We were just missing that final edge, but we were getting closer. I think today is, like you've said, Adam, already, we're getting further and further away from goal. Since Carlisle, we've not scored a goal.
No. So it's just going back to Kewell saying about like Morecambe having a game plan and we were dealing with it. That's not the way you should be approaching a football match. You should be approaching a football match with your own game plan and having them to deal with it.
Let them worry about us.
And it just seems really reactionary, and like we're going to the game trying to soak everything up and then think on our feet while we're out there. Another
comment that Kewell made from his aftermatch was how well Dylan Farge and Badan played, and both of them were on the bench today. So considering he raved about them during the Morecambe game, he dropped them quite quickly afterwards, and I don't understand his logic.
Well, the thing that because I studied the interview and I took notes and I looked at what he said and I looked at his body language, and it was just a very, very insincere account of what happened. It wasn't like, so what he was saying about Fage and Badan there, I don't know if he was saying there's an undertone, there's a hidden message in that comment, and then the fact that they're not playing today, maybe there's something else going on there. But at the end, he said, again, I can't fault the second half performance. In fact, I can't really even fault the first half performance. And then he touched his nose like this, which is, I'm looking into it from a body language point of view. It's an indication that you're being deceitful, that you're not telling the truth when you touch your nose. I picked up on it as soon as I saw it. And I just feel that he's kidding himself, he's kidding his players, he's kidding everybody. And that is not a good situation to be in. Why do you think he's doing that?
You get that with managers. They don't want to...
they don't want to slate the players, do they?
No.
Especially so early on.
They don't have to.
It's kind of saving face as well.
They don't have to slate the players, do they? But they don't have to go the other way completely. And now I know he's one of these. He's got this positivity, and he's trying to be upbeat and all the rest of it. But you can't go from. You have to find some middle ground. He wasn't negative about anything in that performance against Morecambe, and we watched it. It was shocking. We were abysmal. So you can't have it. You can't go with the whole overly positive when it was actually really, really bad. So that's why I'm really interested to see what he's going to say today. Maybe I'll have to add something into the podcast after I've seen the interview. But
I think today is going to be a big key as to where he thinks we are after that, because obviously it was completely the opposite opinion of what every fan said at the Morecambe game. So today, if he comes out and says the same again, you've got to ask questions, aren't you? I generally don't even know where to start with today's game, really. It's just...
I'll tell you where we'll start then, with today's game. We'll start today's game with the sacking of Dino and losing some of the core of the players that we had from last season. Because there's no way you can start a new season with a brand new manager who has to recruit a whole lot. We've had it with Sheridan when he started. We've had it with Stephen Robinson when he started. Right, I almost forgot about Stephen Robinson because with the turnover of managers is so frequent and so often. These managers are starting the season with no players, with nothing to work from. That's why I would have kept Dino, because at least there's some kind of consistency. At least he knew the players he had already. And he could have added to that and he could have said, right, who do I need to complement these players? But no, Mo and Abdallah have not been able to accommodate Dino. The situation was, what they said was, what Dino said in his interviews after he left the club was that his vision didn't align with the managers, with the owner's vision. And this is just going to keep happening over and over and over and over again, isn't it?
Makes you wonder what that vision was. Because
Dino's vision was,
yeah.
Well,
some of the players that we
both of
brought
them
in. Yeah. There's some of the players that have been brought in since Dino seem like the kind of players that Dino might have targeted. People used to the English game. It's a difficult one.
I said in the first podcast, so the squad there's no depth to it at all. You've probably got 8 or 9 players who are, I want to say squad players, but some of them are starters in that squad. But for me, you look at Keelan Dunn today.
The boy gives the ball away constantly. He cannot.
Tell you what, he was their best player today. He was their best player because he passed it to them every single time.
No, that's reserved for Garrity today, just like he was against Morecambe. He's not a player that we need in midfield. It's
mistakes happening all over the pitch. Does it like football? If you can get 11 players on the pitch that can do the basics properly, who communicate well with each other, who don't lose the ball, who are good off the ball and just do simple things well. You don't need that many flair players in a team because you won't make mistakes. You won't give it away. You won't give the opportunities to the opposition. You
need grafters.
You need grafters.
We've not got it. We've not got it.
And some of the touches tonight, some of the Harry was going on about the decision making being really good the other night against Morecambe, but you have to be in control of a situation to make a decision, and we were just chasing things all the time, chasing mistakes
and disorganised. When you look at the 3 goals today, all come from. You could probably say they're all come from mistakes in defence. Some of them, okay, you've lost the ball in midfield, which is another point. But if you've got some decent defenders there, you stop in 2 of those goals at least.
We were a little bit more solid towards the end of the season, though, weren't we? With the back line that we've got apart from Jambati.
And we had David Wheater.
Who's missing out? Who's exactly? David Wheater's missing out of there. Someone who organises the back line and keeps them solid. Today, looked all over the show.
But that's what I'm saying about from last season with the consistency. A manager who's got his captain in David Wheater. David Wheater, we should be bending over backwards to keep hold of a player of his experience and his calibre. But because of the egos of the 2 lads who own the club and because of the whatever games they're playing off the pitch in terms of payments and wages and all the stuff that we read about this in the rumour mill, we know apparently he's moved back to Sunderland this week, hasn't he, David Wheater, from Bolton. He's moved from Bolton back to Sunderland. So he's clearly got no intentions of staying in the Northwest. The owners have clearly got no intentions of trying to keep him at the club. What we've seen so far is that our defence is leaking goals. It's not good enough.
Yeah, I mean you can move back up to where he's from and still commute. There's a lot of players that do midweek and do commute in and maybe, get digs, etc., or rent somewhere. It does seem like he's.
But when you put it into the context of everything, it doesn't look good, does it?
No, not at all. Look at the first goal today. And that pull back for the Stevenage players to score. John Batty's marking space. He doesn't look like a centre half to me. He looks more like a fullback to me. You need someone like Wheater in there with Piergiani.
I think it was Garrity that lost the ball.
Yep.
And they broke it, and there was a really half-assed attempt to try and get it back. And then we've given those kind of goals away constantly over the years, where there's men coming in unmarked from the edge of the box, just waiting to pick it up. The defence are running back. They're open. There's no one coming in from midfield. There's just that big space at the edge of the 18-yard box, and it's like, pull it back and let me tap it in. You know, it's just poor play. That's why.
Yeah, no one can come out with a comment today to say that the lads put in a shift. Apart from Lawler, he stopped it being about 7.
The obvious man of the match.
He's, who else do you look out for there? I thought we looked bright in the first half. Died off second half. He had a bit of enthusiasm first half, but after the first 45, we just turned off. And I was listening to the Stevenage commentary. I kept drifting between the two commentaries to see difference of opinion.
Yeah.
And they couldn't believe how unorganised we were as a side, just a general setup of, how bad we generally looked. And for Stevenage to be saying stuff like that, it's embarrassing. For me, I don't think there's anything else that you can say on the performance other than embarrassing. And if he comes out with anything to support that today, I don't generally understand his thoughts or ideas on it, because that's all it was, embarrassing.
Right, we are still Oldham Athletic, right?
Of course we are.
We're a famous club, right? We've got a good stadium. We live in a large town. There's 250,000 people in Oldham. We've got massive potential. But really, what is left of Oldham Athletic? What is left of what we were now? Is there anything left of what we were, or is it all gone? Because
at the moment, the name.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like there's anything left, does it? Because when you talk about like Stevenage, you think Stevenage compared to Oldham, there should be no contest. But unfortunately, that's the level that we're at now. We're at the bottom of League Two. That is our level. So Stevenage can fully expect to turn us over, as can Morecambe, because we are no bigger and better than those clubs anymore, unfortunately. That's just a fact.
And it's the demise of not just Abdallah's reign, it's Corney's individual reign on its own as well. He obviously ran it into the ground to an extent, and it's just, got gradually worse. Our reputation at the moment, as everyone knows, is very low across, football as a whole. I generally don't know where we go in relation to recruitment now, because I don't think there's much money to go at.
Well,
are we
nothing
going
is
to have to beg, borrow and steal loans? Nothing
is working that Abdallah set out to say that he wanted to achieve. So one of the things he wanted to do was turn a profit on players, bring in young players, and sell them on and make money for the club, which is obviously what you need to do at this level. He's not brought anybody in. He's not sold anybody yet, has he? So, as a football agent and as somebody who's got this network, they've not been able to identify players who were good, who were able to come in, do a job on the pitch to such a degree that they then get courted by other clubs to be sold on. So, can't remember what else he's tried to implement off the top of my head. But even just on that, I don't think that anything that they've said they're going to do has actually worked, has it?
No, it's going back to we touched on it last week. The Q&A at Brighton Cricket Club. They were saying that, loads of clubs wanted Dylan Farge, and there was players that were wanted by other clubs. The only player at this moment in time who's gone on to a club in a higher division that I can think of off the top of my head, obviously tell me if I'm wrong, but Missalou. That's the only player
he went to
they brought in.
He went to Northampton Town, and we made nothing from it. Zach,
That's what I'm saying.
Zach Emerson has gone to Brighton, but he
wasn't theirs, was he?
He wasn't
he was
theirs.
way before Abdallah. So
he's already there. That's what, yeah. So they've not done any business. So in terms of like what that's supposed to be their bread and butter. As a football agent, your bread and butter is identify players who have got potential. It's basically a business transaction. Buy them low and sell them high. Simple as that. So they're obviously not really very good fucking football agents, are they? They must have done something. I mean, maybe that's just the way it is with football. Being a football agent, maybe it's really easy, and we should all be doing it because they seem to have done all right out of it. But based on what they're doing now, they don't seem to have a clue. Or maybe it's just that the jump from being a football agent to owning and operating a football club is a really massive step up. And to think you can do all that on your own is a little bit deluded.
Who'd have thought it?
Yeah. But wouldn't it be nice to like have some acknowledgement on that front? Because we are rapidly heading for non-league football.
Especially in the 125th year when,
that would be so Latics, wouldn't it? It'd be so Latics to have this big 125th anniversary year and get relegated out of the Football League for the first time.
We should be celebrating the past and what's been developed as a football club. The owner should be coming out and acknowledging that and saying, look, this is my plan for the year. I can't remember the last time we heard from him.
He's not said anything.
Obviously, I know we're going to touch on speaking with Carl later on, and that's one of the things that was raised. Abdallah needs to acknowledge the fans.
But now now you see he's very much like Donald Trump. His ego is bruised. If it's not all about him in a positive light, then he doesn't want to know. And unfortunately, his ego has been bruised by his interactions with the fans, by what happened at Royton Cricket Club, by all the stuff that he's hearing on social media, and now he's just gone into his bunker underneath the White House. Or is there a bunker under the Park? I don't know, but he's hidden out of view because he doesn't want to. He's not humble enough to be able to communicate on that kind of level where he can say, where he can build a bridge, where he can.
We all know things. He's not going to come out and say those things, and acknowledge it because of the backlash. But unfortunately, without coming out and addressing it, things are never going to get better in relation to Abdallah's relationship with the supporters. It's never going to get better because if you don't try and sort the issues out that are there and just brush them under the carpet, how are you ever going to move forward as an organisation where you want... He's always come out and said the supporters are the main thing of the football club. Well, show us that you want those fans there.
Yeah, but he doesn't really believe that, does he? That's like Donald Trump saying that.
Well, he can't do
about all the Donald Trump doesn't care about Americans or America. He cares about Donald Trump. So like he's incapable of being able to empathise with his people as a result. And it's the same situation that we've got here. He's not capable of doing it. So I think that actually does bring us on quite nicely to Carl Evans, the CEO, because at the minute that is his position. He's brought in on non-football related business. He is the most senior person in the club reporting up to Abdallah. And then, his job would be to report back to fans. And do you think from the impression, the impression that you got, do you think he's that kind of... What do you think he's like in terms of his communication skills, and do you think he's got that kind of character and charisma and personality to be able to engage with fans?
He seems to have more of an idea about trying to get fans on side. One of the things he said to us was, the biggest seller for a club is the fans, biggest salespeople.
That's where you make your money.
Yeah, it's where you make your money. You get your fans on side, and you get the good feeling, and it sells itself. Now, Carl was saying that he's been in football for 30 years. Obviously, a lot of that with United, Spit. But he does seem to have a decent background in football. Most recently, he's saying he was helping Harrogate Town So just after they get promoted to the Football League. So consulting for them, helping them out with some of the decisions and some of the advice around that. So he does seem to have a decent background in football. I think he understands, well, we made it clear anyway that he needs to get fans on side. We need to do things for the fans. Whether he can take that away and do something with it, we'll see.
Do you think he understands the situation at Latics in the cold light of day, where we're at and what the situation is?
We've given him some homework, haven't we?
Yeah.
We've sent him over the 2 surveys, haven't we, Will?
Yeah. And the main thing really was the You Are My Oldham stuff that we've got on the website.
Yeah.
That we sent him a link to. And I think a lot of that is some hard-hitting stuff where fans just don't feel connected to the club anymore. So it's in his hands. It's down to him to try and convince Abdallah. If he doesn't, then maybe that's Abdallah not reacting well to it, or Carl's not able to do it. I don't know. But we've stressed the importance of it all anyway. Yeah,
well, you can't really do any more than that, can you? I mean, I was impressed by the detail that you went into in your write up, which you tweeted out, which you put up on the website. You know, I thought you couldn't really have put much more information in there for, you know, what was on the record sort of thing, you know. So that was good. I know that the Trust had a similar meeting and they put out their notes. Have you got any thoughts on that? If that doesn't sound like a loaded question, and I'm looking at your face, Adam, I wasn't overly impressed by the output that they put out, but I'm interested to know what you guys think about that.
Listen, us and the Trust have got different ideas on, well, at this moment in time, obviously before the new board's put in place for the Trust, of how we believe the club should be moving forward. And obviously I think that's quite obviously well documented with the Trust in their minutes in the last couple of meetings, that, you know, a lot of the Trust board had different ideas of how they thought the best way was to go. So for me, Push the Boundary is very much set on the ideas of where we want to go, and I think it works well because we all chip in with different ideas. All the statements that come together are all done between us. The updates are all done between us, and we all chip in with different things, and it just works. And I think, you know, with a Trust like that, where you've got fixed directors and people on the board, you're always going to have fractions, and that was the concern about us putting ourselves forward for the Trust, and we put out in our update when there was concerns over what had happened to the share that the Trust had. We just didn't believe that being Push the Boundary as the Trust, we could have the same impact. And for me, we go about our business in the way that we do. I think it's professional, it's organised, and, you know, us and the Trust are 2 separate entities, and we should be working alongside each other. And hopefully, you know, when they put this new board together, we can have further talks. But at the moment, those talks aren't to be had because there's only a standing board.
So we have offered help for the Trust. Obviously, it's in a bad position with the board pretty much imploding last month. We've offered our help. We don't want to see the fans lose that shareholding. We put things aside, and we just want to help them get to where they are. With regards to the meeting with Cal, it just seemed, to me anyway, just seems a bit rushed. So I think we announced that we'd agreed a meeting with Cal pretty much as soon as he was appointed. We got in touch with him. He was really receptive to getting a meeting together. And then the day before that we were due to meet him, there was a statement from the Trust that they'd met him and they'd come out with that. So it almost seemed like it was Push the Boundary, we've got a meeting. We better get something in there. And I'm not saying that that's the case, but the whole thing about the board that they've got together at the moment after all the resignations last month, the whole point of the trust board was to basically see them through to the AGM, and meeting up with Carl and getting all these meetings in doesn't seem to me like that's within the remit that they should have been concentrating on. They should be concentrating on what the trust are going to do, what the AGM is going to be, and how that goes from there.
Now, it's only fair that I, at some point, this podcast is new, and it's only fair that I give the trust an opportunity to come on and talk, and and obviously once the meeting and the election is out the way, then they'll be in a better position to do that. But for me as a fan, and I'm not stupid, I'm not an unintelligent person, but I find it all very difficult to understand with the trust, what it's doing, what its role is. This board meeting that's coming up, I don't know how many people are actually eligible for the board. And it's not because I don't understand this thing, it's because the way that the information is communicated from the trust to the fans, I find that the way that they write and the way that they communicate is very, very formal, and it's almost done like on a boardroom level. Now, I understand that the people who are going into the boardroom at Boundary Park and who are directors need to have a certain understanding of business and how these things work at that kind of level. But communicating that information to the fans needs to be done in a much more stripped back and informal layman's way. And I think that's one of the major downfalls that the trust has, is that it doesn't... You can have the generals, if you like, at the board level, but they need some lieutenants and they need some sergeants and they need some captains underneath them that are going to go out there and engage with the fans en masse and get them involved. Now, I read the candidate statements that they put up on their website, and they all filled out this why. The questions were: explain why you think you meet the requirements for a trust director as set up in the job description. What do you think the trust could do differently to secure the revival of Oldham Athletic? And how should the trust contribute to the rebuilding of lost support for Oldham Athletic? And I read them all, and I highlighted some stuff in them. And it was just throwaway comments. Now, I was impressed by one candidate in terms of detail, but the rest of them, it was just, we have to engage the fans. And it was all just kind of like, very sort of like, there was no detail. There was no one was saying, this is how I'm going to do it. This is my vision. This is my plan. This is what I would do. And it wasn't very inspiring. Now, I don't know if you guys are actually members of the trust, but it's down to members of the trust to elect these people onto the board. I'm not a member, but I wasn't very impressed by what I'd seen written by each individual. If any of you have got a comment on that.
Well, I'm a member. I'm a lifetime member because I used to be a director. So I know what it's like being on the trust and how difficult it is to get people involved.
Perfect question for you then, wasn't it?
Yeah, great.
That's why I stayed silent.
Yeah.
No, but I think it's important for us to get more of an insight into it, because I don't think that we've been given that as ordinary fans, if you like.
No, and it's difficult because a lot of the guys that put themselves forward for the trust obviously love the club, and that's what first and foremost, that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
But getting people to commit to sticking themselves on the front line to get shot at, and it has been for years and years and years. It's something. If you put yourself forward, you are going to get shot at, and you are going to get called out, because there's so much negativity around the trust because of past histories, because of the way that it's run. And I'll stick my hands up here as well and say the time that I was on the board of the trust, it didn't work very well either. Now, at the time I was on the trust, it was when Simon Corney was chairman, and it was towards the end of his tenure, and we were battling more with things behind the scenes than we were with anything to do with the fans. We were trying to do a lot of stuff with the financial side of things, trying to get access to documents and stuff like that. And that's the kind of side of the trust that you don't really see as a fan, and I suppose you don't really know about it because we don't really get told about it.
How many years ago was that when you were on the board?
I left just after Abdallah took over. So 3 years ago, just 2.5, 3 years ago, yeah.
Yeah. Because things are changing, aren't they? Like in terms of how we can communicate with people on a mass level, even over the last 10 years or whatever. And so
it's a time thing, and it's the energy to do it. So at the time when Simon Corney was here, you lose the energy because you're fighting stuff behind the scenes rather than getting fans on side and doing the nice things. We did a few events and to raise money for the trust, which are the kind of nice things that you should be doing. But in the background, when you're fighting stuff, it's difficult to do both things. So concentrate on the club and concentrate on the fans. So what the trust needs to do now, in my view, is it needs to get a board appointed, and then it really needs to have a think about how it operates. And one of the things I've suggested, recommended, is getting in line with the FSA way of organising supporters trusts. So at the moment, the supporters trust is set up as a company, a limited company, and the supporters direct model, which is now the Football Supporters Association model, is to be set up as a community benefit society. So it's almost like a cooperative, kind of a charitable kind of setup. If you do that, you give your members more votes. It's more members focused. Anyone that is a member has more of a stake in that, rather than having a company owned by the people that run it at the top level and having some members that kind of have a say. And you also have access to a lot more kind of grants and fundings and various different avenues of improving things. So part of what we've done is recommending these changes. Whether it's going to happen after the AGM, we don't know. But I think for it to work, for the trust to become relevant again, it needs to do something like that. Totally strip itself out, rebuild, use the resources that are at hand. So like the FSA, they're helping them out at the moment with the election process. And use it. Use what's at hand. Use what they can do with the FSA, with Community Benefit Society, and really make a difference and set up totally different. I don't know whether that'll happen, but
something's got to happen on it. I mean,
it does.
The membership is way down. I think it's in the hundreds, isn't it? It's not. It's not good. I mean, we've a town of 250,000 people, and there's a lot of people there with a lot of different skills, a lot of different abilities. For it all to be down to just a board of people to do everything on their own is completely ridiculous and unrealistic. And I'm not surprised that they're struggling. So recruitment is, and how different levels of recruitment and different levels of membership work is really, really important. And I think it's missing personality, it's missing characters, it's missing people who can engage with people, and it needs a charismatic front person, I think, in order to, or a couple of people who are able to engage with people, and that's not easy either. You can't just magic those people out of thin air, but that kind of face-to-face relationship with fans is gone, and it needs something to rekindle it, doesn't it?
If they reinvent and make the membership more of a core part of what they are, rather than having a top-down kind of setup that they do with a company set up with directors and they make the decisions, give the fans more of a voice.
And that's what you're doing, isn't it? That's what Push the Boundaries doing. So I think what I'm relating it to is, let's all use each other better. Let's all buy into what each other's doing, and let's support each other and help each other, because that's what we need now more than
We all
ever.
want the same thing.
Yeah.
We all want the club to be great. I mean, actually, one of the things that Carl asked the other day when we had a meeting with us, and we'll ask you now. Then we'll turn it on you. Where do you see Oldham as a club? Where should we sit, like in the leagues?
Look, I mean, I did this a while ago. What I did is I actually looked. It was a couple of seasons ago, but I looked down the list of the teams in the Championship, and I looked at like where we were when we were last, a good second division side. And I was looking at the teams, and it was Derby and Forest and Sheff Wednesday, and all these teams, Birmingham City, Barnsley, whatever. And I was just looking at the gap between where those clubs are now to where they were when we were more or less on an even keel with them. And all these teams have grown. Their stadiums have grown. Their fan base has grown. The money, the facilities that they've got are all far superior to us. So can we challenge in the Championship? No. At the minute, we can't challenge in the Championship. Could we? Down the line, I believe that we could, as the size of the town and the potential that the club has got, we could establish ourselves in the Championship. But where our potential is right now, if we could be challenging at the top end of League One, we'd be doing really, really well. And I also don't believe that it really matters what division a club plays in either. I believe that if the club is run right, you're playing your players. But what I mean by that is, if the pride in the town and the team and things, the whole thing is cohesive enough, and that there's enough belief and enough pride in the club from the people of the town, that you will go down, you will have your low points, you know what I mean? But the fans will stay with you, the town will stay with you, if it's all done in the right way. But we're not at that point now. We're bottoming out, aren't we? Where everything is just bleeding out. All the enthusiasm, all the support, all the money, all the goodwill, everything is just bleeding out the club. So any aspirations that we might have of being a Championship club again, was Abdullah's plan a 5-year plan to get us back in the Championship?
He had the plan that he released. When was it? May 19 or something. He released the plan that mentioned the Championship, but it didn't kind of promise anything about the Championship. And what you're saying about the level that you thought where we are. I think we had similar thoughts as well. People might think it's not very ambitious, but when you look at the fan base and you look at the facilities that we have, it's probably where we could get to quite quickly.
And it's all about progression, isn't it?
Yeah.
You've then got to, you get to that point, you then got to look at either further investment or further funding to try and get you to that next stage. And you look at every single club who's gone up from League One, there's been further investment put in, and that's what you've got to find. Football's such a demanding industry money-wise. You've got to find that extra cash to stay up there, stay up in the Championship. And you look at teams even like, Bolton spent money, Wigan, all of them have struggled at the wrong end of the table. It's one of those things where...
And battle with administration because of it.
Exactly. Some teams just have that income from owners who are quite happy to throw that money around, and especially with obviously everything that's gone on with COVID, I don't think it's going to be as easy for teams to get up there and stay there now.
So the model going forward for Oldham Athletic, and what you're trying to do, and the whole point of having the trust and the trust operating at its best with a 3% stake in the club, is ideally to increase that stake and to get fans to participate. And that's where we're at, innit? We're not going to attract a billionaire investor who's going to throw hundreds of millions of pounds into Oldham Athletic until, we may do at some point in the future, but we're not until we are an investable proposition. And the only way that we're going to make ourselves an investable proposition is by any potential investors looking at us and seeing the support and the goodwill that the club has with amongst the fans and the town as a whole.
And that's one thing that Carl was quite good at, really. He understood that. He understood that, fans are the main thing about this club. He was well aware of the away attendances that we take and recognised us as being one of the highest in the league for away fans. So he does get that. And for me, what I really liked about his approach to us was he wanted everyone to get involved. He wanted to have a plan that, included supporters with the sponsorship, looking at different ways of getting the fans back on board. And if he, obviously, like we've said, stays true to his word, then,
this is
I honestly think
this is the hardest time to do that, isn't it, in the club's history?
Of course,
because we're playing the worst football we've ever played. We're down at the bottom of League Two, and we've got an ownership that has alienated itself from the fan base, and that's just the reality of it. And the fans feel more disconnected with. So we are at rock. Unless we get relegated from from League Two this season we are at rock bottom. Let's hope this is as low as we get, because if we get any lower than this, we're into Stockport and all that kind of territory. So, let's hope that we're at rock bottom. Rebuilding ourselves as a fan base is going to be difficult because performances on the pitch does very much determine how engaged fans are in the club. Is that something that you found and that you would agree with?
Well, you going to say something then, Will?
I was going to say something unrelated. I don't think it would take much to get fans back, honestly. Yes, we've lost a lot of fans, and we were saying the other day that our season tickets actually went up when we got relegated. The season we got relegated, our season ticket sales went up. So it's not always about the football.
Do you believe that at the time when we got relegated? I believed in Richie Wellens, and I thought we should. I thought Wellens was going to bring us back up again. Unfortunately, they sacked Richie Wellens before the pre-season started.
He's obviously proved people wrong, hasn't he? Wellens. For me, to not win a game in his last, was it 9, was scandalous for me personally. And if the issue with getting rid of Wellens was the timing of it, like it was with Dino, like it's been with the last couple of managers, the timing's been awful on every single one of them.
Absolutely dreadful.
And there's no consistency with it. And I think Wellens or Bunn, having someone who's got a connection with the club, who knows what fans want, who can drive attendances by playing. Doesn't even have to be attractive. It just has to be committed and dedicated, and all fans want to see is players working hard for the team.
Well, we keep coming back to the same problem, don't we? It's not the manager that recruits the players. So the manager can't build a team in his own image, because Moore dictates who comes in and who goes out of the football club. And Moore doesn't know what he's doing in that position. So, unfortunately, that's the situation we're in. From a football point of view, we're not going to engage fans because we're clueless. So we're going to have to do it another way.
I mean, looking at Bunn and Rhodes when they were appointed, they brought some players of their own in, and they brought quite a few in. And they've probably had, well, apart from Pete Wild, did Bunn have the best points per game ratio maybe while he was playing?
Weren't we 7th in the league when he sacked Bunn?
We were 7th in the league.
Right, and we got beat by...
I think it was a bit lower than that, wasn't it?
We took a bit of a whooping at Carlisle, didn't we? And that's why he got sacked. But when you compare to how we've struggled since, we were actually doing all right, weren't we?
Yeah, we asked at the fans forum why Bunn got sacked, and Abdallah was like, well, we lost at Carlisle by this score.
Yeah.
And, that's... seems irrelevant now. You look at the managers that we've had since, and we've chopped and changed, and it just shows that it probably just wasn't that loss at Carlisle was for the reason for his sacking.
But the reasons for the sacking, the reasons for the leaving, they're all debatable, aren't they? They're all,
all of them.
They're not, you know, it's just, it's all, the writing's almost on the wall for Harry Kewell. You can almost see it coming. Nobody expects Harry Kewell to be here by the end of the season. Nobody. I don't even think Harry Kewell expects to be here by the end of the season. I don't even think that Abdallah and Moore think that expect him to be here by the end of the season, because that would be unrealistic based on the track record. Nobody's finished the season yet. Dino was the longest serving manager for 10 months, and however many months of them, it was COVID related. He was on furlough. So,
you know, it's nearly a year since Benid was sacked. Probably in a couple of days' time, it will be 1 year since Benid was sacked. And how long ago does that feel?
Yeah,
the managers that we've had
feels like a lot longer than a year, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Mm. So,
and even Benid, he wasn't that bad. I mean, he got sacked after drawing at Scunthorpe away.
But this goes to show that the guys running the football club have no grip on reality, no grip on what's realistic and what the expectations should be, and that it's going to take time for any manager to come in and build a team and build results and you can't just keep firing him off because it's not going right after a few games with the players that you recruited.
I think we've seen though, Matt, that mentality is not going to change.
Well,
that
then
mentality will never change.
We're not going anywhere then, are we? So do we really need to focus on getting them out as owners then? Is that what the focus should be? Because clearly they're not going to take us anywhere. They're not going to deliver us any success on the pitch because they don't know what they're doing. So I'm just being blunt here now, because I can't be doing with this going on like this for year after year after year. And do we wait until they've taken us into the non-league before we have an uprising? And just you don't have to speak from a push the boundary part, from a personal point of view. What do you think? And just because I know people listening they're thinking this. They want him out.
For me, it would be nice if we got someone in that could run the club the way that fans wanted to. I'm not going to ask him to sell up or anything, but I think it would be nice. He seems to have made some changes. Some of the recruitment this year seems to suggest that he's taken some criticism on board. Again, I don't know whether that's in line with the salary caps that we've got in line with this season. So, maximum salary cap of $1.5 million. So maybe we're recruiting in line with that. I don't know. I'd like to think he would take stuff on board and listen to fans, but everything that we've seen so far doesn't suggest that. I
had this conversation with him. I want him to do well. I want it to work. I don't mind, whatever. Like, they're here now, make it work. Do you know what I mean? I'll forgive the last few years if they can make it work. I just don't have faith that that they can do that. I don't have faith that they can take the learning on board and do what needs to be done. So if they could convince me that they can make it work, I'll get behind them. But they're not convincing me that they can do that. It's not in my interest as an Oldham Athletic supporter to want to be at odds with the owners of the club and to have this division. It's not in my interest. In my interest is Oldham Athletic doing well, and the owners doing well, and the managers doing well, and everybody doing well. But the early signs this season is that we're just repeating the same patterns, and it's extremely frustrating.
No, it is. And it's one of those where you look at where we are with the owner. Abdallah, for me, he's had offers to sell the club. That's been obviously public knowledge that's been put out there. I don't see... he's rejected those, which is obviously his prerogative. But if you are going to, you have got to try and change things, because there's less and less fans year after year. It's not. You can't maintain that, and it's like you say. I don't care who owns the club. If they provide success to the team and get fans back on board and make the club an attractive proposition to fans, players, staff, that's all everybody wants. Yeah. And if you can't see that, that is all Oldham fans want. We want something to get behind, and unfortunately at the moment it's just not there.
It's like we were saying the other day. Fans don't care about what goes on behind the scenes. We don't want to know.
Shouldn't have to.
No, we don't care about late payments of wages. Well, we shouldn't. Things should get paid in the background.
Yeah, we shouldn't have to care about it because it doesn't happen.
No,
exactly. Yeah, not that you don't care about players, staff not being paid.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's like get paid, get it sorted in the background, all of that taken care of. And then fans should just concentrate on going to the match, watching the match, watching us win, even if we don't win. Watching a performance, watching us really grafting to play for the badge. And that's what supporting a football club should be about. And recently, past 10 years, we've concentrated too much on what goes on behind the scenes because it's just all been pretty poor.
You know what?
It'd be good to get out of that rut.
It's become political, unfortunately. It's like politics now. It's like you can push the boundary. It's a bringing together of it's like a union, or it's like preparing for to challenge. It's like the fans have had to organise because we feel like we're going to have to step up and we're going to have to take it on ourselves at some point in the future because there's no faith in the leadership. And it's all about this. It's all about what's going on off the pitch as opposed to what's going on on the pitch. And it's just not what being a football fan's all about. Being in the vicinity of Boundary Park, it's like standing outside it even, has always excited me. It gives me. I could walk past it in the daytime. We had to go to the hospital just to be in the aura of the floodlights at Boundary Park. It's something that even when I'm talking about it now, because I've not been there for so long, I'm getting a tingling in my tummy. It's that I was born in that hospital that overlooks that football ground. It's really important to me. Really, really fucking important to me. I'm gonna cry in a minute. I'm telling you. I'm done with it. I love that football club. Fucking love it. I love the town, and I love what it does to me as a person. And I don't want people fucking about with it anymore. I'm sick of it. I want it back.
Oh, it has.
Listen, it's coming out of me now.
I wish they knew it. I just wish they knew it.
This is where I'm at with it. I'm sick of it. And I don't live in Oldham. I live in Dublin. And all I want to be able to do is look back on my town and my team with some pride. I don't want to be able to go back there. I want to be able to feel the swell of pride that I have inside me from where I'm from. And the team I've supported since I was a kid. And I'm sick of just having to fight fires and just...
You're not the only one. You're not the only one. The feedback that we've had from other fans telling us their stories about, what they used to do when they were a kid, going to the match with their dads, going matches with the brothers, with the sisters, even with the mums.
You Are My Oldham is perfect for that.
It really is. Really is. You read those stories and it hurts.
On our website, it's got its own page on our website, You Are My Oldham. On our website, have a look at some of those comments and thoughts about what people think about the club and what it means to them and how, at the moment, this isn't what Oldham Athletics are all about, but it's got to get back there.
I don't care what Abdallah says. He does not understand. He does not understand what it means to be an Oldham Athletics supporter. He doesn't get it. He does not get it. And he needs to fucking get it or get lost. It's as simple as that. Because there's no way he would ever get so emotional about Oldham Athletic in the way that we would. There's no way. And that's what it's all about. We have an emotional, lifelong connection. Relationships come and go in all different areas of life. One relationship that is never going to change is your relationship with your football club. Never, ever, ever going to change. And it's with you for life. And you can come in and he can say that he fell in love with Oldham. He didn't fall in love with Oldham. He fell in love with the idea of owning a football club, and he saw Oldham as a club that he could get on the cheap. That's what he fell in love with. He fell in love with the idea of feeding his ego as being the owner of this football club. So he needs to get a reality check, and he needs to come back and he needs to tell us actually where he is at, what the story is, be honest with us. I think he probably hates it now. I think he probably regrets the decision. Well, I don't know. I'm putting words in his mouth. But what he isn't an Oldham fan, and the club doesn't mean anywhere near as much to him as it does to us. So he needs to show some respect to that fact.
Honesty goes a long way. We've said it is, be honest with people. Don't try and hide things. Don't try and, manipulate numbers with free tickets. Don't try and, you'll have to edit this bit out. I hope so. Anyway.
For me, it's, everything is about honesty. If things aren't going good, say they're not going good. If they're going well, sing it, shout it from the rooftops. Make sure everyone knows about it. But unfortunately, we have this mentality now that whenever the club puts anything out, we don't believe it. People do not believe what comes out because of the issues that the fans have had in the past with things not being put out correctly.
The problem is we've got this nepotism involved in the club, because the reason things aren't going well on the pitch is because Abdallah has employed his brother to recruit the team, recruit the players, and he doesn't know what he's doing. But nepotism is stopping him from acknowledging that fact and sacking his brother from that position. And that's the elephant in the room. That's the one big issue. That is clearly the thing. But he won't do that. And everything else pales into insignificance in and around it. That's my view.
I think it's going to be a case of, I think this season will definitely be a make or break. Obviously, Carl, that was spoken about, has got a job on his hands, and, he knows that he's got a lot of work to do to try and repair the disconnection with the fans. And it's not just from Abdallah, it's from previous as well. People weren't happy with Corney, they weren't happy with Blitz before. It's been happening for a long time, and that distrust has just grown over the years. So if they can obviously correct that, try and bring in the right people and let them do the jobs. That's all we ask. Let them do the jobs. Let them have the tools to do what they need to do and leave them to it. If they left them to it, I think we'd be in a miles better position. But obviously, time will tell, and it's going to be down to the club to make the changes that they need. And if not,
but
judge at the end of the season.
We're going to have to start putting more pressure on them. To I think from a fan's point of view, it's very difficult because we're not in the stadium where we can't make our voices heard that way. What do you think we can do to start putting more pressure on the club in terms of making them realise their mistakes and try and get them to make the right decisions?
I think it's difficult at the moment purely because of Carl Evans coming in. You've got to try and give the guy a chance to try and correct things. But obviously, go on, Will.
Sorry, we're also in a difficult situation with coronavirus and reduced incomes and things that are happening, around in the football world, and not having the money to spend on things, and clubs are finding their feet. It's difficult to go all in and start kicking off about things. Yes, we've got a couple of poor results recently, but you have to be balanced about things and give a bit of time and see how things pan out. Yeah, we're not happy. Yeah, we want someone to come in and spend shitloads of money on the team, but you have to be balanced about it. And I know it's been going on for years and years and years, and people are frustrated and people want to kick off, but I have to be reasonable about it. And
You have to
hopefully,
be reasonable, but there's got to be a point where that reasonable changes, and I think fans are already at that stage, aren't they?
We're at breaking point. I can't believe I fucking cried on the podcast, but that was just raw emotion and desperation as to where we're at, and to just want to have. I think you set that up with the dream of just what being a football fan should be about. I remember walking down Chadderton Way to go to Boundary Park. There was thousands of people, throngs of people up Furtherwood Road into the Chaddy end, like thousands of us all walking close, shoulder to shoulder, excited, walking in under the floodlights into the Chaddy end of Boundary Park. All that is getting stirred up inside me. Whereas now it's like going to Boundary Park. It's just like a war of attrition. You kind of brace yourself for it. You get your big coat on. You go in. You're sitting. There's no atmosphere, and that's if you go. Yeah, but when we were going, and then you go, and it's all the fun has gone out of it. All the passion, all the excitement, the whole thing is just changed. It's just not the same anymore, and unfortunately, the really desperate thing is that there's not really any hope for that change at the minute with the way things are. So I think that's why it all got to me, to be honest.
Yeah, that's understandable. It really is. It's trying to find. It's not about. I suppose it's not about finding the balance. It's about trying to do the right thing, and finding the approach that you go with. I mean, what do you do as a fan? What do you want to do?
I want to do my podcasts. I want to get more involved with Push the Boundary. I want to get more involved with the Trust. That's what I want to do. And that's what I'm going to do, right? So I think each individual listening to this and each individual who's an Oldham fan has to ask themselves, what are they going to do? Are they going to ignore what's happening and say, I'm not spending any more money around Latics and I'm going to come back when everybody else has got it sorted? Or are they going to get involved, or are they going to do something about it? And that's what you've done. You've set up Push the Boundary. Will, you've been a director for the Trust. You're trying to be active. Now, not all of us can be the same. Sometimes all you need to do is just add your name to something. All you need to do is just pay a couple of quid every month, whatever it is. But we all need to take responsibility. Every single Latics fan needs to start taking some responsibility for this club.
Even signing up on a website, the more people that we have signed up on our website, we've got over 800 people at the moment. We get that over 1,000. We can go to the club and say, we've got 1,000 fans behind us that want change. It's not that we represent, it's that we're trying to kind of pass that voice, trying to pass what the fans want to say to the club. So it's not about Push the Boundary, it's about the fans. Get signed up, get us over that 1,000 mark, and then the club might start to take things a bit more seriously.
Definitely. Look, we have to take control of what we can control, and all we can do is come together and put pressure on the owners to start delivering the kind of football club that we want. And that's what Push the Boundary does. It helps to deliver the voice of the fans and say, this is the kind of football club we want. We're the customers, deliver what we want. That's what happens in any other business. Customer demands, it dictates the market. This is what we want. So, business provides that. And it's the opposite happening at Boundary Park at the minute. The fans are saying, this is what we want, and we're being delivered something completely different. So, probably a good way to end the podcast today is as a plea to Latics fans. Sign up to Push the Boundary. Sign up to Trust Oldham. Sign up to something which says, I'm an Oldham Athletic supporter and I want to influence change on the club. I want my voice to be heard.
Yep.
And if anyone's got any ideas, thoughts, suggestions, concerns, anything at all, email us. We'll always get back to you. You know, if people aren't happy with things that are going on, tell us. You know, we want to have the widest range of ideas from supporters to go back to the club with. We're going to be meeting Carlo on a regular basis, monthly at the moment. Obviously, if there's anything major that comes up, you know, obviously we'll speak more. But that's the message. You know, if you've got concerns, raise them with us. If you want things being done with the club, speak to us. Yeah, exactly. No, you're a collective voice for supporters, and you know, and I'm getting to know you guys a little bit better. And you know, I'm not seeing egos. I'm not seeing people who are doing this because they want it to make them look good. That, you know, you're people you're people who have been hiding behind Push the Boundary, if anything. And it's only through my suggestion that you come on this podcast that you're actually putting your own voices and you know into the conversation. And again, credit to you for doing that, you know. But yeah, I mean, it's your organisation, so you're going to have to be the ones that lead it and take it forward. But you're doing that on behalf of the fans. That I know ultimately is what you're doing. So, Lassies fans, get behind Push the Boundary, get behind and let us get behind Oldham Athletic and do something. Yeah. Let's change things. Let's stop this. Like, we don't want. Well, under Corney, we got into that rut of we settled. We're just a lower mid-table League One team. We can't settle now where we are, can we? We can't settle this.
Under Corney, it was at least we're not Stockport. That's what a lot of people said. At least we're not Stockport. At the moment, we've got a lot of people that wish we were Stockport.
Yeah,
and they're not even in the league.
Yeah. We can't settle where we are now. Things have to change. And nobody can affect that change apart from us as fans. This is our club. It means more to us than it will ever mean to anybody else. Any player, any manager, any owner. Like, this is our thing. The tears are out of me now, so I'm all right. I'm not going to start again. I'm not going to go again. But sometimes it's actually nice to get that realisation of how much something means to you. Do you know what I mean? It's like a nice little kind of, this is important. I'm doing this podcast because this is important. I'm talking to you because this is important to me. The future of Oldham as a town is directly linked to the success of Oldham Athletic and vice versa. And I want the best for everybody who lives in Oldham. I want the best for, you know, the town and the football club. It means a lot to me. So I'm living in Dublin, but this is my way of trying to reach back and reach out and give people a voice. So I've still not had any voice messages. I'm hoping to get some voice messages from fans so I can put them out on the podcast, particularly if they're raging after the results today against Stevenage. But we'll wait and see. So listen, lads, thank you very much for your time again today.
No problem.
Thanks for inviting us on.
Maybe we'll be able to have a chat after a win, you know, in the next week or two.
There's always hope.
I'm not going to watch the Wolves game. I'm done with it. I'm not watching Wolves game, but I will tune in for Crawley. I think it's Crawley next in the league, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
So, you know, maybe something will change.
Good.
But I'm not going to have as many beers after the Crawley game because it gets me a bit emotional, obviously.
No beer next time.
I'm going to do Crawley sober.
Yeah,
right.
That's probably a bad idea.
No, well, you know, it is what it is. I'm not bothered. I'm too long in the tooth now to get embarrassed. I don't care anymore. I've hit that age where I just don't care anymore.
Nope.
So, Will and Adam from Push the Boundary, thank you very much indeed for your time. The Boundary Park Alert System is a Studio 6 production, hosted, produced and edited by me, Matt Dean. Follow me personally on Twitter @DublinOAFC and follow the podcast @OAFC Podcast. Thanks goes to Push the Boundary Supporters Group for their contribution to the show, and you can follow them on Twitter @PTB_OAFC, and you can join the group by registering your support at www.pushtheboundary.co.uk. The title music for the show is produced by Manchester DJ and producer Starion, and to hear more visit soundcloud.com/Starion. Thanks for listening. See you again next time.